Everyone avoided her. They called her a threat, a mistake, a force that never should have existed. A towering alien woman left alone in the shadow of fear. No alien male dared stand before her. It wasn't her strength that frightened them, but her calm. Then a human appeared, unarmed, unassuming, unwilling to step back. In that moment where fear had always ruled, courage spoke softly, and the universe was forced to consider a possibility it had never allowed before. The docking plaza recalibrated its gravity for the third time that morning, which was how everyone knew she had arrived. Vendors cursed as their displays tilted, warning lights blinked, and a service drone announced, with nervous politeness, that structural tolerance was being politely exceeded. Conversations thinned. Footsteps found new directions. Alien males who had been arguing over plasma tariffs suddenly discovered urgent appointments elsewhere. She stood where the shadow stopped moving. Someone dropped a datapad. Someone else pretended not to notice her at all, which was impressive considering she was tall enough to interfere with orbital traffic permits. Her long ears angled back slightly, not in threat, but in tired anticipation. She had learned the pattern: pause, avoidance, whispered recalculations of pride. A pair of armored Caliph males approached, stopped 10 steps short, bowed too deeply, and retreated without saying a word. She waited for the next act. None came. "Well," she said to the empty air, "that was shorter than yesterday." A maintenance drone hovered close, then reconsidered its life choices and drifted away. She shifted her weight. The plaza sighed. Across the crowd, a human watched this with interest and mild concern for the flooring. He had been warned, several times, by 3 species. One of them had shown him a diagram involving bones. He nodded, thanked them, and walked forward anyway, holding a cup of station coffee that was legally only coffee by precedent. Someone hissed, "He's dead." The human stopped a respectful distance away, looked up, and squinted. "Hi," he said. "Quick question. Is the gravity acting weird, or is it just you?" Her ears twitched before she could stop them. "That depends," she replied, "on whether you're planning to run." He glanced behind him at the empty space where courage had recently vacated. "Seems inefficient." A murmur rippled through the onlookers. Betting apps quietly activated. "You're not afraid," she observed. "I am," he said honestly. "Just not enough to be rude." She studied him. No weapons, no challenge stance, no heroic nonsense, just a human with bad posture and calm eyes. She leaned slightly closer. The coffee sloshed but did not spill. "Most don't last this long," she said. He lifted the cup in salute. "I pace myself." Something unfamiliar loosened in her chest. The plaza lights flickered, steadied. Around them, the crowd realized nothing catastrophic was happening and seemed vaguely disappointed. "Well then," she said, straightening, "since you haven't fainted, screamed, or proposed combat, I suppose we're talking now." "Great," he said. "I was hoping for that. Also, your presence fee just bent a vending machine. Do you want the snack that fell out?" Her mouth curved despite herself. "Yes," she said, "but only if you promise not to call this bravery." He smiled. "Deal." They sat where the plaza edge met the transit rail, a place designed for beings of average proportions and therefore deeply offended by her existence. The bench had already surrendered with a metallic groan, so she chose the ground instead, legs folded with careful precision. The human remained on the bench's remains, which now functioned more as a suggestion than furniture. "You know," he said, watching a repair drone circle nervously, "this is the first time I've caused infrastructure damage just by being adjacent to someone." "You adapt quickly," she replied. "Most visitors panic. Or apologize to the floor." "I was going to," he said, "but it seemed like the floor had already forgiven you." Her ears angled outward, a gesture that among her people meant amusement mixed with disbelief. "You speak strangely for someone who hasn't been crushed." "Years of practice," he said. "Humans survive mostly by talking when we should be quiet." Around them, the plaza resumed movement in cautious increments. Vendors pretended to reorganize stalls while clearly listening. Security drones hovered at a respectful distance, their threat algorithms looping in confusion. A betting notification chimed somewhere and was hastily silenced. "You're not from Caliph," she said. "Is it the height?" he asked. "The lack of running," she answered. He grinned. "Name's Elias. I fix things that break in space, sometimes by accident, sometimes on purpose." She considered this. "I am called Thryxa. People here call me other things, usually when they think I can't hear. And can you?" She leaned slightly closer. "Always," he nodded. "Good, saves time." A small child of a scaled species darted past, stopped, stared openly at Thryxa, then at Elias. "Is she dangerous?" the child asked. Thryxa opened her mouth. Elias spoke first. "Only to bad architecture." The child accepted this wisdom and ran off. Silence settled, not uncomfortable, just new. Thryxa watched the crowd watch her watching them. It was a familiar loop. Elias noticed the way her shoulders stayed tense, as if braced for impact that never came. "They're afraid," he said. "Yes," she replied, "and offended. Fear feels like an accusation to them." "Humans do that too," he said. "We just call it tradition." She laughed then, a low sound that made the transit rail hum in sympathy. Several aliens flinched. Elias didn't. "You're very small," she said. "Devastatingly so," he agreed. "Yet here I am." "You should not be," she said. "Standing near me brings trouble." "Trouble follows me anyway," he said. "At least this kind comes with snacks." A drone rolled up, dispensed the fallen vending item, and rolled away at maximum speed. Thryxa took it carefully. "You do not look at me like the others." Elias shrugged. "I look at problems until they stop being scary." She studied him for a long moment. Then slowly she relaxed. The plaza gravity stabilized fully. Somewhere in the station, a warning system powered down, confused and slightly offended. By the next cycle, the station had decided something was wrong. Elias discovered this when a security drone followed him into the hydration corridor and politely asked him to confirm whether he was still alive by choice. He confirmed. The drone requested biometric proof, a signed waiver, and a brief explanation of his mental state. Elias selected optimistic confusion from the drop-down menu. Thryxa waited near the cargo locks, where ceilings were higher and expectations lower. When Elias approached, 3 dockworkers immediately found reasons to rotate a crate that did not need rotating. "You're being monitored," she said. "I get that a lot," he replied. "Usually after I rewire something I shouldn't." "You returned," she noted. "Seemed rude not to." Her ears shifted, uncertain whether that was bravery or stupidity, possibly both. She rose slow enough that the gravity sensors didn't panic this time. "Progress. They believe I will hurt you," she said. "Do you plan to?" "Only socially," she said. "If you keep saying strange things." He smiled. "I can pace myself." They walked together, which caused traffic congestion and at least one spontaneous prayer. A group of alien males halted mid-argument as Thryxa passed. One saluted by accident. "Do they think I am weak now?" she asked. "They think," Elias said, "that you've acquired a human. That confuses most species." "That is not an answer. Confusion rarely is." They stopped at a viewing panel overlooking open space. A freighter slipped past, its hull glowing with shield residue. Thryxa folded her arms, the gesture careful, practiced. "They train us to dominate," she said. "Strength is survival, fear keeps order." "And how's that working out?" Elias asked. She exhaled. "I am alone." A long pause followed. Elias scratched his neck. "If it helps, humans tried the fear thing. We mostly just got really good at lying about it." A chime sounded. An official delegation approached, robes heavy, expressions heavier. The tallest of them addressed Thryxa without meeting her eyes. "This association is inappropriate." Elias leaned in. "That's my favorite kind." "You will step away," the official said. Thryxa did not move. "Why?" "Because he is small." Elias looked down at himself. "Rude but accurate." "Because he is fragile," the official continued. Thryxa looked at Elias. "Are you?" "Emotionally," he said. "Yes." She turned back. "Then he is brave." A murmur spread, the official stiffened. Bravery is measured in dominance. Then measure something else, she said calmly. I am tired of bending the station. The delegation retreated, dignity leaking behind them. Elias let out a breath. You realize that might have started something. Yes, she said, but for once not with violence. She glanced at him. You are not afraid of consequences. I am, he said. I just don't let them choose my direction. Her ears angled forward, attentive, curious. For the first time, she wondered what it might be like not to shrink herself to fit the galaxy. And the station, inexplicably, felt a little steadier. The station attempted diplomacy the way it did everything else, with forms. Elias discovered this when a hollow panel unfolded in front of his face while he was mid-step, asking him to acknowledge that prolonged proximity to Thryxa might result in flattening, accidental or otherwise. He tapped accept and added a note that read, worth it. Thryxa watched this with narrowed eyes. You signed too quickly. Humans have a long tradition of ignoring warnings, he said. It's how we invent exciting problems. They moved through the habitation ring, where gravity was softer, and ceilings curved upward like someone had finally considered her knees. Even so, people scattered ahead of them, the sound of hurried footsteps echoing like applause in the wrong direction. A vendor dropped a crate of glowing fruit. Thryxa instinctively reached out and caught it before it hit the floor. The vendor froze, eyes wide. Sorry, Thryxa said automatically, holding it out. The vendor bowed 3 times, apologized to the crate, and fled without taking it. Elias stared after them. Free groceries seemed like a terrible way to build a reputation. I once received an entire transport ship, she said. No one would come claim it. Did you keep it? It blocked my doorway. They stopped near a training platform, inactive but humming with residual energy. Elias looked it over with professional interest. This place ever used? Constantly, Thryxa said, to prove who is strongest. And does it work? She tilted her head. It proves who is loudest. As if summoned by the comment, a group of alien males approached the platform, clearly intending to demonstrate something impressive until they noticed her. Their formation dissolved into awkward spacing. One of them cleared his throat. We were just leaving. Elias waved. Great timing, we were just arriving. They did not argue. Thryxa watched them go, her expression unreadable. They fear that standing near me makes them smaller. Elias considered this. Funny, standing near you mostly makes me worry about sealing codes. She huffed a laugh before she could stop herself. The sound echoed, warm and surprised. You joke when others submit, she said. I joke when I don't know what else to do, he replied. It's a coping mechanism. They stepped onto the platform. Sensors flickered, unsure how to categorize them together. Thryxa stood tall, waiting for the usual tension to coil in her chest. It didn't. Tell me, she said quietly, what do humans do when they are feared? Elias scratched his chin. We make movies, then merchandise. That is inefficient, extremely. A challenge beacon activated nearby, flashing red. Thryxa felt the old pull, the expectation of dominance. She ignored it. I do not wish to fight, she said. Elias nodded. Good, I bruise easily. She looked down at him, really looked, and for once did not feel like a weapon waiting to be used. You stand beside me as if it costs nothing. It costs plenty, he said. I just don't pay up front. The beacon powered down, confused by the lack of aggression. Around them the station seemed to pause, then continue, as if adjusting to a new equation. Thryxa breathed out slowly. Perhaps strength, she said, is knowing when not to step forward. Elias smiled. Careful, that kind of thinking gets you friends. She glanced at him, ears relaxed, and for the first time did not feel like she was towering over the galaxy alone. By the 5th cycle, the station had begun to adjust its expectations, which was not the same as understanding. Systems rerouted foot traffic before Thryxa arrived anywhere. Gravity nodes warmed in advance. A small icon appeared on public maps labeled temporary anomaly, then quietly stayed. Elias noticed this while trying to buy food. The dispenser refused his credentials and displayed a polite message. Associated entity exceeds load parameters. I think I've been promoted, he said. Thryxa looked at the screen. You are now a structural risk. I've always wanted a title. They ate in a wide observation chamber where the windows curved outward into open space. Stars slid past in slow procession, indifferent and punctual. Thryxa sat with her back against a support column, careful not to lean. Elias sat cross-legged on the floor because chairs had learned to fear him recently. You are changing this place, she said. Unintentionally, he replied. That's my strongest skill. No, she said. Intentionally. By not doing what is expected. A service drone approached with a tray, paused, recalculated, then extended it to Thryxa with exaggerated caution. Elias accepted a ration bar and frowned. This tastes like regret. It is fortified, she said. So is concrete. They watched a maintenance crew across the chamber pretending not to stare. One worker whispered something. Another laughed too loudly. They think you have been subdued, Thryxa said. Elias choked slightly. I would like that officially clarified. They believe my presence beside you means I have chosen a lesser path. Also incorrect, he said. I trip over nothing daily. Her ears angled back, thoughtful. Among my people, choosing calm over dominance is seen as weakness. And among mine, Elias said, choosing dominance usually means therapy later. She looked down at him. You make light of serious things. I make serious things survivable. A ripple of energy passed through the chamber as a nearby jump gate engaged. The air vibrated. Thryxa tensed out of habit, then noticed Elias hadn't moved. You trust me not to lose control, she said. I trust you already do, he replied. She considered that. Slowly, deliberately, she relaxed her shoulders. The vibration faded. Somewhere deep in the station, a stress alarm shut itself off. A group of alien males entered the chamber, hesitated, then, after a visible internal debate, continued forward instead of turning away. One nodded stiffly at Thryxa. She nodded back. No one died. Well, Elias said softly, look at that. They are testing reality, she said, to see if it has changed. Has it? She watched the stars. It is changing me. That admission sat between them, heavy but not sharp. Elias broke it with a small grin. For what it's worth, you're doing great. Minimal destruction. She laughed, a deep, warm sound that made the window hum. You measure progress strangely. Only way I know how. When they stood to leave, a child waved at Thryxa. She waved back carefully. The child did not run. As they walked side by side, the station lights adjusted, not brighter, not dimmer, just steady. And for the first time since she could remember, Thryxa did not feel like she was being endured. She felt, unexpectedly, like she belonged. The summons arrived without drama, which made it immediately suspicious. A band of light traced itself across the corridor floor ahead of them, pulsing in the polite but firm rhythm of authority. Elias stopped walking. Thryxa did not, and the light adjusted, clearly having anticipated this. Is that for you, Elias asked, or am I finally being arrested for excessive proximity? It is for both of us, Thryxa said. They do not like variables. That explains my entire species. They followed the light into the council chamber, a space engineered to intimidate without admitting it. The ceiling arched high enough for Thryxa to stand comfortably, which was already an accusation. Council members sat arranged in a curve, each surrounded by softly glowing data fields. No one smiled. Several recalculated. One of them spoke. This situation has escalated. Elias looked around. I apologize if that's my fault. I escalate unintentionally. You have altered social equilibrium, another said. Yes, Thryxa replied evenly. By remaining calm, murmurs rippled. Calm was not on the approved list. You were feared, the first speaker said to Thryxa. That fear served order, and crushed everything else, she said, including me. A council member turned to Elias. You are insignificant in physical terms. Frequently noted, Elias said, usually by furniture. You inspire defiance, the member continued. Elias frowned. I don't even inspire punctuality. Thryxa stepped forward just enough to remind the room of scale. He inspires presence, she said, which none of you have shown. Silence stretched, systems hummed. Somewhere a sensor overloaded and quietly reset itself. You challenged tradition, the council said. Yes, Thryxa replied, and you survived. One council member shifted. What do you want? The question surprised even her. She really thought, instead of responding with what was expected. I want to exist, she said, without being a warning. Elias nodded beside her. Very reasonable request. Low collateral damage. The council withdrew into whispered calculation. Probability trees bloomed and collapsed. Finally, the light bands on the floor dimmed. This association will be tolerated. Elias grinned. High praise. As they left, the tension didn't snap back. It thinned like a cable losing strain. In the corridor, Elias exhaled. You were terrifying in there, he said. I did nothing, she replied. You stood, he said. That counts. They passed a reflective panel. Thryxa caught her own image, still towering, still powerful, but no longer braced. I think, she said slowly, they fear losing fear. Elias considered that. Good. It's exhausting to maintain. They walked on, the station no longer whispering warnings ahead of her steps, but adjusting quietly, learning. Behind them, somewhere deep in the station's systems, a classification was updated. Temporary anomaly was replaced with new normal. The station no longer flinched when Thryxa walked through it. That was how she noticed the change first, not in words or policies, but in silence. Gravity held steady. Lights did not dim in apology. People still looked, but they no longer scattered like startled data packets. Some even forgot to pretend they were busy. Elias noticed it too, mostly because doors stopped opening early for him. I think I've lost my anomaly privileges, he said, tugging a ration pack from a dispenser that no longer labeled him a hazard. You seem disappointed, Thryxa said. I enjoyed being feared by machines. They stood near the outer docking ring, where ships came and went with casual indifference. A freighter lifted off, engines folding space neatly behind it. Thryxa watched without the familiar tension coiling in her shoulders. She did not brace. She did not shrink herself. A pair of alien males approached, actually approached. One cleared his throat. We wish to say, he began, clearly rehearsed, that the Council's tolerance has encouraged reconsideration. Elias leaned toward Thryxa. That's the longest apology I've ever heard starting. The male hesitated, then bowed, not deeply, not fearfully, just enough. You are respected. Thryxa nodded. Good, she said. Fear is inefficient. They left, slightly dazed by their own courage. Elias exhaled. Look at that, social progress, no explosions. Disappointing, she said dryly. They walked along the viewport. Stars drifted. The station thrummed with ordinary life. Thryxa realized she was walking slower, not to avoid damage, but because she wanted to. You will leave, she said. Yes, Elias replied. Humans are like that. We wander off once things start working. She looked down at him. You came here by accident, stayed on purpose. She considered that. I no longer feel like a test others must fail. That's growth, he said, very fashionable. A child ran past and waved at her. Thryxa waved back without thinking. The child laughed and kept running. Something settled inside her then, solid and calm. You stood when others retreated, she said. You changed nothing by force. Elias shrugged. I mostly just didn't move. She smiled, not carefully, not guarded, just smiled. A boarding call echoed. Elias shifted his bag. If you ever visit Earth, you'll be tall but not terrifying. Mostly we'll just ask for selfies. That sounds exhausting. It is, he agreed, but people mean well. She bent slightly, close enough that only he could hear. You taught me that strength does not require distance. He met her gaze. You taught me ceilings are negotiable. They parted without ceremony. No declarations, no fear, just choice. As Elias disappeared into the ship, the station adjusted nothing at all, and Thryxa stood, no longer a warning, no longer alone, exactly as she was, and for the first time